Honestly, the firm just took off. And for about 6-7 years, every month turnover grew.
It says a lot about the value you provide to your clients and to your employees as well.
We've given them that whole experience. We've been honest.
When we partner with anyone, the first thing is, what is your offer, right?
We've always put the people in place and then gone for sales.
It's looking for that competitive advantage, right?
Never blame the person, always blame the process.
Welcome to the podcast From Cold to Close. My name is Saeed and I'm the founder here at SRC Growth Partner, a growth company that helps professional services firms from around the world increase their revenue and profitability by acquiring new clients. My guest today is Neil Capstick, founder of Executive Compass, one of the UK's largest bid and tender writing consultancies. What started as a one-man operation in his bedroom in 2009 has grown into a 35-strong team that helps SMEs and large corporations win public sector contracts across more than 60 different industries. Neil, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you very much. Nice to be here.
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to this conversation. It's definitely a topic that hasn't been covered on the podcast before, and I think that you'll be able to provide some really interesting insights, especially as a lot of our viewers and listeners out there are business owners who typically would go into tenders and go into bidding for work. So I think you'll provide some really great insights today. But I guess the best place to start is always, I feel, giving the viewers and listeners an understanding of who you are. So could you share a little bit more about you and your company?
Yeah, certainly. Like most baby boomers, I left school at 16 and went straight into work. And missed out on the university journey, so I didn't have that. Although that came much later. I went into a traditional apprenticeship in engineering, which might sound quite odd as to where I've ended up. Fortunately for me, I just finished serving my apprenticeship and I was made redundant. So I was 20-year-old and I was unemployed for about 2 years. I'd left school because I had the apprenticeship. I'd left school without any qualifications. And I had a very specialist apprenticeship, so there was no work in the northeast of England. I ended up at about 12, 13 years in semi-skilled work in a quarry with no qualifications. And then I was constantly looking for work, and I managed to get a job in the railway industry, which had recently been privatised. And that's where the journey really started for me, because within 2 years, I got my first supervisor's job. And at the same time, I went to my boss. And basically on the railway, if you want somebody to do something, you just shout at them. And if they don't do it, you just shout a bit louder. Well, I kind of knew that wasn't right. So I said to him, is there any courses I can do? And he said, well, I've just done a certificate in management with the Open University. And the short story is that I then went on to do a certificate in management, a diploma in management, and an MBA, all off the back and all sponsored by the company. And all with the Open University. And I was also getting promotions as I was going through. That took about 6 years. And I was also getting promotions as well. So I was going up through the ranks as well as learning quite a lot academically, especially in stuff about business and management, and been exposed to it as well. I then went and did an MSc in statistics and then started to job hop. I got a job as general manager and then a managing director. And so I went from the tools to managing director in about 9 years, which a lot of people think is pretty good. And when I look back, I think about, wow, how did you do that? I wouldn't like to do it again, put it that way. And then in 2008, really, I started to think, because I was working away a lot, I started to think that, maybe I could go and do something for myself. Because I was away from home sometimes 2 weeks at a time. So I set up Executive Compass Business Consultants. And originally that was going to be a general consultancy firm. And I was going to be the only person in it. I swore then I would never have any employees because I'd spent a lot of time dealing with, trade unions and all kinds of stuff. And I didn't want any of that. It was hard. Within the first 6 months, I'd spent all the money that I had and some money that I didn't have, to be quite honest with you. I took a small loan to pay the mortgage 1 month. And then I stumbled across, somebody came to me and said, can you do this PQQ? I said, yeah, no problem. I did it. It won, and then I did the tender. And within a week, I thought, yeah, this could work. So I sort of pivoted quite quickly. And instead of being a general business consultant, I decided to be a specialist bid and tender writer. And that's what I did. I discovered Google Ads, which at that time, everybody knows about now, but at that time, wasn't mainstream and certainly not in bid and tender writing. There was only about 3 firms doing it, and none of them were using ads. And that's where my sort of business background and my statistics came in. And I set up all the ads, and honestly, the firm just took off. And for about 6-7 years, every month turnover grew. Every single month, it never dipped. And every year since 2009, all turnover has grown. So annual turnover, we've never gone back. We've always grown. And we're in our, I think it's our 17th year, 16th, 17th year. And we've just, as we draw to this month to a close, this is going to be our record month ever in the company. So really delighted with that. We've stuck to our knitting. We've focused very much on supporting clients who bid into the public sector for government contracts. It tends to be local government more than central, because the central government contracts are much larger, would be often very specialised. So think MOD and things like that. But we help a variety of clients from, I don't know, £1 million turnover or less even, up to, some of the big firms might be £200-300 million turnover. If they need us in for a specialist bid that they're working on. We've worked in every industry from cleaning to nuclear decommissioning. The project values range from probably the minimum's about 300,000, but I have been involved personally with bids up to £1 billion. There's not many of them, to be fair. Most of them sit in the middle, So most contracts would be worth, if you think they're anywhere from 3 to 5 years long, most contracts would be worth between anywhere from 3 and 12 million. That's kind of the sweet spot. But we often, every month there'll be a couple of decent sized bids will come in, up to about 50 million. In the early days, it was just me. Obviously, as the company grew that quickly, I needed to bring people in. Bid and tender writing, although it's kind of recognised more now, but there wasn't so many people doing it. So I couldn't hire experienced people. So I started hiring graduates. And that was in 2010 when I hired the first one, and we're still hiring graduates to this day. And it's something that I'm incredibly proud of. Have they all stayed with us? No, they haven't. Graduates, very few are sitting in university thinking, oh, wow, I really want to be a bid writer. The job, but they come to us, they find it's hard, obviously. They find it might not be for them, so we have lost some. We've got, two of my key directors started as graduates, and they have been with me since 2014. So a long time. We've got the bid managers also who one started as a graduate, one started, he was just a little bit older, but not much. I think they've been with us 6 years. So that we've launched a lot of careers for these young people, many who come up here to the northeast. It's a university area. You've got Durham, you've got Newcastle, you've got Surrey, you've got Middlesbrough universities. They come up, and I'm very proud of the fact that we've created meaningful work for them. Something that a graduate can really get stuck into, hire the brightest and the best. And that's been sort of proven time and time again. Our clients, we have a 75% repeat business, which is fantastic. I've got clients who are with me, who I wrote a bid for back in 2011, are still with us today. And as you said, we operate across over 60 sectors. It's not exciting work, but it's very, very interesting. You learn how the world works, it's been good. I've enjoyed the journey.
It says a lot about the value you provide to, firstly, your clients and to your employees as well, for you to firstly kickstart so many graduates' careers, and naturally gaining such an insight into public sector work and tender writing, because that is what you said there. It's bid and tender writing. It's very specific, right? And it's for a purpose, and the purpose can be very lucrative for the company that's going for that bid. And so it's such an important piece of the puzzle that you're solving to come in and really help your clients through. So it makes sense why, if you do a good job, you've got clients from 2011 and you've got employees who have been with you since 2014. So clearly is a testament to your business and what you're doing over there. Fast forward to today then, you're now one of the largest bid and tender writing organizations in the UK. What do you think were the biggest and key turning points that accelerated your growth? And I know you touched on the Google ads being something early doors, but do you think that was the pivotal moment, or maybe something else down the line?
Well, certainly in the early days, the spark, the ignition came from Google ads, and that got us out there. And then we kind of trundled along. Turnover was going year on year, but not huge amounts until about 2014. And then I hired Amy, who was the first director we appointed. Obviously not then. She came in as sales and marketing manager. And she and I worked together, really. And we had a lot of workshops, locked in the room with a whiteboard and a flip chart. What is it our customers want? And we had ISO, we had directly employed people. We had all of these things on the website. And then after a couple of hours, we sort of said, but actually, Our clients just want a high quality service that will win. They just want to win bids. If we could say, guarantee you a win, they'll just give a blank check. Literally, that's all we want. And so we didn't pivot exactly because we still had a lot of focus on doing really high quality jobs. So all we did was we really magnified the intensity on quality. And so with my background in statistics and her background in sales and marketing, we were able to really focus on quality. So quality in terms of the writing and the delivery as well, but also quality in terms of customer service. So we made sure that when somebody rings us, right from the moment we speak to the first person, who at that point was Amy, right until we're handing over that bid at the last minute, every single step in that value chain is the highest quality that it can possibly be. And that really changed it because then, as I said, the repeat business was just fantastic and still is.
Mhm.
Clients come back to us time and time again. And what we did, we just focused on that quality bit, but the whole experience, not just the bid.
It's what you've just said is music to my ears. And there was a specific thing you mentioned there when you were discussing with your sales and marketing director that we preach about all the time with our clients, right? When we partner with anyone, the first thing is, what is your offer, right? And from the sounds of things, the tweak in the offer that you said, oh, if we guarantee the wins, and guaranteeing a win, they'll give you a blank check. That's what you said. And it's 100, that's the offer that you're giving someone. You're going to go, well, you're going to win a bid here and we will do that. So once you've got them into your network of clients coming in, you then provide excellence amongst the service you do.
And even when we speak to clients, I mean, obviously we can't guarantee a win, but we'll give them an objective view. And often clients will say, well, okay, I hear what you're saying. You can't guarantee a win, but I want to go ahead anyway. What's our chance? And we work with them and they might lose, but they still come back because we've given them that whole experience. We've been honest. Sometimes we say, well, actually, Acme Engineering, we don't think you can win this at all. And they'll say, well, we've got to be seen to be bidding from the buyer, and also it'll give us great experience. And our honesty, they've lost, but they still come back.
Yeah. And that says it all. Just taking a pragmatic approach with all your clients as well. The matter of frank kind of consulting there always helps because then you leave the door open for them to actually understand what the process is, understand your customer service and that type of stuff. So yeah, makes a lot of sense. So you've obviously worked across more than 60 different sectors. What's the most surprising and challenging sector you've had to learn quickly in with regards to the bid and tender writing experience?
I think for me personally, probably health and social care was the particularly difficult one. Coming from an engineering background and health and social care, different language, different outcomes. So they don't talk about outputs and hard and fast measures. It's a more soft and cuddly thing. But we had to get to know it pretty quickly. It represents around about 30% of our business now. So that's like domiciliary care, supported living, that sort of thing. And I think that unlike a lot of other public sector buyers, commissioners for health and social care really do understand what they want. They've got their own particular challenges, as most of them have, around budgets and things like that. But I think with health and social care, you're working with a really informed client. And there are some other sectors that are like that. So, for example, nuclear and other areas. Well, it stands out in health and social care. And the more, like a lot of tender, cleaning tender can be a cleaning tender, but that doesn't work for dom care. The domiciliary care in Essex is different to domiciliary care in, say, Newcastle or North Yorkshire, and so on. And so that can be as interesting as it is challenging, to be honest. And it's good work, it's interesting work, and you get to talk with people who are passionate about what they do as well. Because a lot of health and social care providers, they're obviously in it because they have to pay the rent, but it's not always their primary thing. Where in some of the other private sector businesses we work with, profit is king. These guys want to make a difference in health and social care. So there's a difference there as well. So there's a difference from the buyer and there's a difference from the supplier.
I think that's so interesting as well, having those different approaches. And having to pivot in understanding what that sector is really about and how to change your language. Speaking of language, and a few years ago, there was something that came out and it was into the world that many people had never even experienced previously before that. And it was a 2-letter word and it started with an A, ended in an I. And as a writing-focused, language-focused company, How has AI impacted your business as a whole?
Don't think I can talk about it just purely as a writing tool, because AI is much more than that. In terms of how it's impacted our business for writing, it hasn't. It is notoriously poor at writing high quality content that is suitable for bid writing. There are all kinds of issues around sensitivity and confidentiality of data. So, the chat programs out there, they don't guarantee that they'll use your data for the LLMs. And so up to now, it hasn't impacted us. I do know of some companies that are using it. I do know of some individuals, bid writers working for larger companies. Our take on it is that it is too unreliable. It's like a really clever child, your number one son or daughter that is a shining student at university and doing really well. But every now and again, they go off the rails and they tell you lies and they don't do as you tell them. And that's really the reality. Most people don't realize that, but that is the reality of it. So what we are doing, we're in the process of working with an American developer, and we're creating our own specific bid writing module. And that will be based around our style guide, the input that we've put in. But also, if you were to come to us as a client, you wouldn't be looking at across the internet about all the other different specifications and all that. We would only be looking at the specification that we pumped in, the prompts that we give it, the guidance that we give it. And if you've worked with us 10 times, we'd have 10 of your tenders in. It will only work in there. But really, we'll still need human input. It's as simple as that. The knowledge, the intelligence, the nuance that is required to write a high-quality bid. At the moment, AI doesn't have that. So in terms of the writing, it's not really affecting us as yet. But what we're intending to do is to embrace AI much wider and to put that into other elements of the company, everything from, automation of emails and prompting clients for documents and downloading transcripts and having AI sort of look at the transcript and then create answer plans and drafts, first editions for us, perhaps even doing reviews of our work for us, right from the very beginning even, taking customer queries. So we're not looking at it just purely in the middle. It's going to be a true AI solution. A lot of people get AI and that other two-letter word, IT, mixed up, and they're not the same, So we're going for a true AI solution.
Yeah, no, I think it's really interesting you mentioned that, because I think, first of all, the building out your own LLM surrounding the language around bidding and what you've done so far in the, 15, 16 years that you've been around, that's an immense advantage that it gives you moving forward, because you're not using something that's out there that lies to you, that isn't great with language. You're using stuff that you've actually done internally, and you can use successful bids that you've done to see commonalities amongst that. So it's clear advantage.
I think using the existing AI systems that are out there are a bit like going around a racetrack in a tractor. You can do it. You will get around that racetrack, and you'll stay dry if it rains, etc. But is it the best vehicle for going around that racetrack? It isn't. So what we're doing is building a racing car.
Yeah, I love it. And it's looking for that competitive advantage, right, in the market that gives you that 1%, 10% increases in wherever you are. So in terms of then, as a leader of the business, naturally, you touched on earlier how you pride yourself in having people in the organization that's been there since 2014, hiring graduates. Talk to me a bit about how you lead a team and build a culture in a business as a small business. What are some of the lessons you think you can share with us today with regards to that?
I think visibility, practicing what you preach, being honest, not telling lies. I mean, I've had people in the past who I've said to, "Oh God, I haven't sorted your bonus out for negotiation for next year," and they just go, "Don't worry, I know you'll do it." It's about not breaking promises, being really honest with people. So they know that if I don't do all the business briefings now, but if I go on one, they know, for example, that they will get an answer regardless from me. And I always say, well, you might not like the answer, but it will be completely truthful. A lot of people, when they come, we've only hired a couple of older guys, and when they've come into the business, they've all said the same: "We can't believe how open you are." Our guys know the prices of everything. They even quote their own stuff, and they know how much profit we get. They know everything about the business. I was once leaving when I worked in the office every day. I was leaving the office, and I turned around to somebody and I said, "Look, can you just look after everything while I'm out?" It was about 2 o'clock in the afternoon. And she went, "Oh." She said, "Oh, right. What do I do?" And this is true. I just walked back a couple of steps and I said, "Just do the right thing. That's all you have to do."
Right.
And the way I look at it is, if you've sort of said to somebody, look after the business, and they make a mistake, so what? They haven't done it deliberately. Certainly, if you've got the right people in place, they're just learning. It's part of that learning thing. I've never raised my voice in that office in 16. There's just no need. You just talk things through. You know, um, Honesty comes at a price. It's a nice word, and a lot of people, as an employee, ask for it and demand it almost, but they don't always like it when they get it. But I believe in it. So I think that's key. So honesty and openness and transparency, probably put together with being as open about yourself as well. I don't now because I've moved out of the town, but I used to go for a pint with the guys on a Friday night. They know all about me, they know all about my family. There's no secrets. And they know how the business is doing at all times. So for me, that's how you build an inclusive culture. It has got more difficult since remote working's come in. I still haven't fully met that challenge about instilling a sense of ownership and being part of something when you're only in the office. Well, some of our guys are never in the office now, but a lot of them are in the office maybe a day a week, 2 days a week. How do they feel that sense of belonging? How do they feel that that they're part of something great? And it's very difficult. We try that. We celebrate success. We talk to them a lot. We always have teams chat. We have meetings every morning, but it's not the same as the water cooler moments. And I haven't mastered that challenge yet. But everything else, I think we've got a great culture. But I would say that, wouldn't I?
Yeah, of course. But you've been very honest there, and it's absolutely true. And I've had a lot of conversations on this podcast with a lot of entrepreneurs, CEOs, and they say very similar things with regards to building culture in a post-pandemic world where remote working is coming and the visibility isn't as much there. There has to be more trust in employees, and the trust is there, but do they feel the same way about working? Do they still feel like a belonging to the company, that type of stuff? So it's not an easy fix, and it's something that I think a lot of business owners are struggling with at the moment, especially when you go from pre-pandemic to post-pandemic. There was a lot. We've spoken to a lot of entrepreneurs who started their business during the pandemic, so they haven't known or had a business that was essentially 5 days a week working in the office versus and now remote, whereas they've gone into a hybrid kind of environment now. So that's the new norm. And so, yeah, that's I guess a very big challenge a lot of us are facing.
It is. And of course, bid writing is quite, it's an insular process. You've got your keyboard in your head and you're down working. It can be quite a lonely role, but even more so if you're not in the office. When you put your head up for a 5-minute break, there's nobody there, there's nobody to chat to. And of course, you're not overhearing conversations, you're not overhearing jokes and chat and stuff like that. As I said, I've not met that challenge fully yet, but still working on it.
Yeah, of course. So in this section of the podcast, we like to call the Entrepreneur's Room. And that's a series of questions that we like to ask all of our guests to give our viewers and listeners an opportunity to understand how business owners and business leaders think and operate when running their business. So at this stage of the podcast, I always like to ask the same question, which is, how are you currently spending your days as a leader of the business?
How am I currently spending my days as a leader of the business is no different to how I used to spend it in 2010 when I got the first employee, really. And that is talking to people. Comes back to the earlier question around about culture, leadership, and visibility. It's really important for me that I said I'm quite an open person and people know about me, but also I know about them. So if I go in the office, if I went in tomorrow and I walk through the door, I make sure that I speak to every single person. One of the things I'll say is I'll walk up to them at the desk and go, "Hey, Saeed, how are you doing?" And they'll go, every time they go, "Oh, I'm just writing a bid for it." And I go, no. I'm not interested in that. How are you? What are you up to? What are you doing? So I actually spend quite a bit of time of the day touching base with people, especially as they're remote. So I might drop them a Teams message. I might even have them a Teams call. And you think, well, you've only got 30 people, that won't take long. It does, because you've got to follow up, you've got to follow through. So a lot of my time is spent on that. And then the other amount of time at the moment is probably spent scanning the competitive environment. And I include the public sector in that. So what's happening? So we had the new Public Sector Procurement Act earlier this year. There's a lot of stuff going on around that. There's AI looming its ugly head everywhere. So I look at that. And then what I try, and the competitors, obviously, I'm looking at what they're doing. And what I'm trying to do is trying to stitch together a rich picture taken from snapshots of all over the fire environment. That takes up most of my time, to be honest.
I guess that's the job of someone who's in a more strategic position in the business, where you have to keep your eyes on the market. You have to keep your eyes and ears to where the wind blows and understanding what's happening, because every single day is important in business, and anything can happen in any day where it can change the landscape of the business, and being able to pivot, being ready for whatever, it's always important. In terms of then the most important metrics for you as running the business, you've been running now the business for many years. What do you look at when running the business as the most important metrics?
There's two really. There's our quality rates, so what our win rates are, and repeat business. So they're the two big ones I look at. Obviously, if your win rate starts to drop for any reason, that probably indicates there's a problem in the organisation somewhere. And I won't know where that is. You can say, well, it's probably in the writing, but is it? Is it in the interview process? Is it in the client engagement process, or whatever? Are we actually taking bids on that we shouldn't be, and should be telling clients you've got absolutely no chance of it? Yeah. And it's a similar thing with repeat business. If our repeat business drops, why? Why has it dropped? It hasn't dropped for a very long time, but when it has dropped in the past, it's usually been just a coincidence. Nothing's happened. It's just that perhaps 3 or 4 of our major clients in particular sectors, there hasn't been the opportunities for them. So they've gone from bidding, I don't know, 10 times a month to 1 and things like that. But those are the two sort of key metrics that I look at. And then I suppose after that, the same as everybody else, I obviously look at sales inquiries, level of sales, and all the rest of it. But for me, I get a monthly report from our director, and that's the first thing I go to: win rate and repeat business.
I think it's interesting that the way you go into first principles thinking. As soon as if you're seeing something that isn't quite right, you go, okay, well, it could be the writing, but no, you dig deeper. It could be the interview process. Are we bringing the right people in? Are they feeling okay? Whatever it might be, really pulling.
You've got to go upstream and downstream from the issues. I do coaching, and I'm not working. I'm a motorcycle coach, and people do things, behaviour, and it's easy to go and say, well, you shouldn't do that, but you've got to find out why they're doing that. And it's the same in business. I once was at an interview for a managing director's job, and he said to me, what have you learned from your studies as an MBA with the MBA? That was an interview question. And I said, the number one important thing that I've learned is that every single area of a business is connected somehow. So no matter what you do in that business, it will affect another part of the business. Now, it might affect it monumentally, or it might just be a tiny little thing, but it will affect it. So always look that little bit deeper and drill down, So if somebody has made a mistake in the role, why? Well, this didn't happen. Okay, why? Well, because that thing over there happened. But why did that? And you keep going. And I think over time, because we've drilled so deeply, we've sort of not smoothed out every mistake. Mistakes still happen, but they're very, very few and far between. So it's that attention to finding out why. Never blame the person, always blame the process.
It's the 5 whys, right? Just keep asking why until you find
it really does work. It's very simple and it's very powerful.
Yeah, 100%, 100%. So at the moment then, as the business is growing and turnover is growing, what are you currently doing to grow the business? What kind of business development, sales and marketing activities are you currently doing to grow the business?
In terms of growth, out and out raw growth, we're not, to be quite honest. I know a lot of companies that just chase pure growth. Lots of things happen. They build the sales, and the sales get big. I'll hold my hands up so you can see. But underneath, where's the infrastructure to support those sales? So what I've always done is and I think this is what separates us from our competitors, I've always put the people in place and then gone for sales. And we are just coming to the end of a period of putting the people in place. So I have a new managing director in place from January. We've got bid managers. We've got review. We've just expanded the supporting infrastructure as part of the overall organizational architecture, but not the writing team. So the next stage will be to get the writers before we start pursuing sales. Get the writers in. Recruitment takes 3 to 4 months. Training takes 3 to 6, and then start to pursue sales. And in all honesty, where that will come from, we will just continue doing more of the same. There'll be no, massive sort of sales programs or anything like that. It works what we do. We have a great reputation. If we can get 5 or 6 people on new clients a month, remember, we're going to keep probably 4 of them, and it just keeps rolling on. So yeah, nothing massively planned in sales, but in the organisation certainly yes. I think infrastructure is key. Too many people overtrade. They get a lot of work in and they don't have the resources to meet it. Now, I know it's a fine balance between having the right level of resource and overhead, but obviously we've been trading a long time. So I understand just what we need and what the costs are and what we can stand.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Absolutely. Neil, it's been an absolute pleasure having you on the podcast. It's been a fascinating conversation, and I think you've been a really great guest. I like to end every single podcast with the same question. And that is, if you had a magic wand you could wave to solve one business problem, what would that be?
I think it would be solving that problem we discussed before. How do you instill that sense of being part of something with people who are working from home and who are outsourced? If you could fix that and you could get a really cohesive team and people really feel they belong, if somebody could give me the answer to that, that would be fantastic.
Yeah, still looking for it. I'll tell you that. Neil, it's been a pleasure having you on the podcast. For all those out there who might want to reach out to you, where would they go? How would they find you?
It's very, very simple. It's straight to the website at Executive Compass. You type in Executive Compass, bid and tender writers. That'll take you straight to the website. All the contact details are on there, and that leads you straight to the team.
Amazing. Well, thank you again for your time.
No problem. Thank you.